I spent 3 weeks and almost 200 hours playing Elden Ring's randomizer mod. Why? Because I hate myself, and also because I wanted to beat every remembrance in Elden Ring while the game was randomized. If you don't know, the Elden Ring randomizer mod mixes up the locations of all the items, enemies, and bosses in the game. This means every item could be a great weapon, or just a crafting material. In Malenia, could be in literally any boss arena. It's terrifying and a great time. So let's get started. The first step is picking a starting class. These are also randomized, so I'm pretty much just looking for a good weapon. On this go around, the samurai class had the great Omen Killer Cleaver, which is a decent but not great weapon. The samurai starting stats are also pretty good, so I end up deciding to start with this. I'm sure I'll find a better weapon pretty quick. Elden Ring normally starts with a scripted death. Luckily, there is a way to avoid it. I have a Deathbird as my first boss, and if I let it slam me, my health will drop to 1 before the screen goes black. There's no "you died" screen, and I didn't hit 0 health, so this technically isn't a death. At least that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. I now have the privilege of beginning an hour of gathering items. My first stop is Aelle. Merchants like Aelle can have key items. These are things like the rolled medallion, sacred tears, golden seeds, and skaboop tree fragments. So a lot of the items I need to progress the game and buff up are with merchants. Thus, my starting route is going to involve visiting every merchant in Limgrave, Caelid, and the Weeping Peninsula. First though, I have to stop to pick up Torrent, who is thankfully not randomized, and proceed on my journey. Between merchants, I also stop at graveyards. These have a bunch of items, and I'm looking mainly for smithing stones and remembrances. This run must be blessed because I find one off rip and get a free 30,000 runes to start my run. Some highlights from the gathering section are the winged sword insignia I find at Bernasti before I absolutely blast them, the physic flask, which is the only item besides Torrent which isn't randomized, a second remembrance for even more runes. Then I break the mausoleum in Weeping to dupe my first remembrance, so I'm just swimming in money. I also find the rolled medallion next to the mausoleum at a merchant, which is huge for progressing the main game past the capital. In Caelid, I happen to find the ritual sword talisman for extra damage, and I murder a geriatric dragon for even more runes. I think I might be getting lucky with my levels. At the last merchant check in Caelid, I find Godric's Great Rune, which will boost all my stats after I clear Godric's Arena. This is really useful and easy to activate, so that's a pretty clutch find. By now you must be thinking, Ratty, surely that's enough gathering. Nope. I now make my way to Patch's Cave. Guarding it is Dane, but honestly, I have one of the best NPC fighting weapons. I hold down L2 and he takes his flurry of blows like a man. Very nice. Now I get to see my favorite bald boy, Peaches. The strat here is pretty simple. I wait for him to puke at me so I can strafe his ass and backstab him. As he's standing up, I also get in a couple of fat hits, and that's pretty much GG's. I finally arrive at Round Table Hold and pop my remembrances before turning in all the bell bearings I collected from the merchants. With this mod, you can just take the bell bearings from the merchants as a dialogue option, which allows you to make a giga purchasing area at the Twin Maiden Husks. Using all my runes, I buy all the golden seeds and sacred tears I can find, as well as all the talisman pouches and any good armor or talismans I find. I also go to upgrade my cleaver. This is probably a good time to mention that in this mod, regular smithing weapons cost 1 stone per level. It's nearly impossible to find 12 of a regular smithing stone, so this allows regular weapons to actually be useful. Speaking of being useful, let me talk about my new partner, GamerSupps. I have had a crippling addiction to coffee and energy drinks for the last 10 years, and I spent a lot of time being super jittery and then crashing after I finish my drinks. But for the last few weeks, I've been using GamerSupps as my caffeine substitute, and I feel so much better. Their blend has stopped me from feeling awful every day, and that's helped me hate my life a little less. I mean, I'm still challenge running, so it's not that much, but still. I'm feeling a lot better, and instead of a lame mug, I get a bottle with a cute anime girl. My life has improved infinitely due to this. The fruity flavors are a much better way to start my day, and the names on these crack me up. Seriously. Get you some grandma's ashes or titty milk. They actually both taste amazing. I've even been drinking the caffeine-free stuff because I can't stand normal water. They also have a ton of bottles, merch, snacks, and even tea available. There's something for everybody. Use code RADDY for 10% off an order, and if you're not ready to commit, use the link in the description for a free sample pack. Free shit, my dudes. Go get it. Back to the run. After all that scavenging, I'm at level 38 with pretty much all those levels put into health for safety purposes. I have a +4 Omen Killer Cleaver with some decent armor, the Ritual Sword, Warrior Jar Shard, Winged Sword Insignia, and Hallidrake Talismans. And finally, 9 +4 Healing Flasks. And there's nothing in the Physic Flask, but oh well. Time to see who replaced Margit. Oh, fucking Death Knight. God damn it. I fought this guy maybe once on my first DLC playthrough, and honestly, I have no idea what his moveset is. Off rip, my damage also looks like ass. After 50 minutes of gathering, I really don't want to end my run on the first boss, so I try and send a backstab, and it is shockingly easy to do. So I start delivering hella backshots to this Margit imposter. He's really easy to backstab. Very easy to backstab, holy shit. Considering I have no idea how this boss works, I'm pretty proud I managed to immediately find a cheesy way to deal with him. Although, as a professional rat, I've always had a bit of a nose for the cheese. This is also a good time to bring up boss scaling. Bosses are only as powerful as the arena they are in. In this case, that means a normally powerful late game boss from the DLC is not doing full damage. He's powered down to the level of Margit. This is done by the randomizer so that you don't get absolutely cooked by fighting Consort Radon as one of your first bosses. This also works in reverse, so an easy boss like Margit in, say, Malenia's arena will be doing a shitload of extra damage. Hopefully that makes sense. Time to finish off Death Knight the Fell Omen. Nice. Very good. GG's, Mr. Knight. When he dies, I get a golden seed because all major bosses happen to drop key items. This means, besides merchants, important bosses can also give items that will progress the game. These items can also be at certain specific locations, but we can worry about that later. On to Stormveil. I find Gostock and make him open the gate before mercilessly assassinating him. I didn't do this for no reason though. He does have a bell bearing, so it's justified. When checking Gostock's shop, I find some great items. First off, Smithing Stone 2s to finish weapon upgrades, as well as Sacred Blade, which is a great Ash of War to have, in case I find Deathbirds or Ghost Flame Dragons. I buffed the Thick Axe up to +6, and now I'm ready to run through Stormveil. This has to be one of the spookiest runs in the randomizer. There's tons of enemies concentrated into a small area, and the run up these stairs in particular can be absolutely fucked if a large enemy like a Rune Bear or Big Hand is placed here. Fortunately on this run, everything is pretty tame, and I make it to the secluded cell without an incident. My build is the same as before, besides adding one flask from our friend the Death Knight. This is my first major boss for this run. There are 25 Remembrances and Bale that I count as major, and this is the first step in finishing the run. Let's see who's here. Sick. Edred, another boss from the DLC I've never fought. That's just awesome. At least my damage looks good, and this guy pretty much immediately gets staggered. I don't know who this is or where he comes from, but he has 0 poise. So I keep on giving him the heavy hitters, and he keeps folding like origami. Oh, 2 charged R2s to stagger? That's kinda broken. I may have no idea how to dodge him, but that doesn't matter if he can't dodge me. It works, nerd. With 1 out of 26 bosses down, I now want to do all my checks in Leria. There's not too many, and there's tons of extra items. So this is where I generally have been completing my builds in this run. My first stop is the merchant immediately found behind Stormveil, and this guy has half the Dectus medallion, which is pretty awesome. While checking the former Academy Glintstone key area, I acquire yet another remembrance. That's a 50k remembrance, brother. That's pretty sick. I heckin' love free runes, dude. Most of the key item checks, like the 4 belfries, didn't provide much, so I was forced into doing Caria Manor. Both the boss and Padilla have important items, so doing this area just makes sense at this point. Most of the run through it was pretty chill. I did piss myself a bit when I saw a crow on this bridge, but I nimbly evaded him and proceeded to the arena of the boss known formerly as Loretta. What's in here? Why none other than Gillica, my beloved. She seems a little beefier than I'm used to, but the beauty of demi-human queens is you can just hug the crotch and bang without worrying about getting hit. Gillica, no. Calm down, my love. Eventually, I get enough cleaves for a stagger, and the Gigabonk destroys my beloved. And she drops the Academy key, which is super sick. Before we use that, I take a quick stroll to Padilla, who doesn't have much, but I buy his Scud fragments because I don't want to come back for them later. Now I can head into Hogwarts. In my entire journey through the lake, all I found was a small shield for parrying and the Erdtree's Favor Talisman. I did find a bunch of flask upgrades, at least, so I have 11 + 7 flasks as I begin my hunt for Harry Potter. Rhea is another area with a ton of enemies and very little space. Luckily, some of them are coded as passive, so they don't immediately try to eat my ass. I do get grabbed by a predator at the end of this bridge, which did spook me, but I recover like a sly rat, and before I know it, I'm almost at the door to the Red Wolf. Upon entering, I am greeted by the demi-human chiefs and all their shitlings. I am very surprised by my damage. These boys are scaled up pretty far from where they start, and my weapon's only +6, but I am chunking these 2 cretins. However, this fight is cursed, due to there being about 50 little enemies. If I could stand and bang, this would have been over quick. Instead, I have to spend most of my time running so I don't get cornered and gang banged. It's not the most exciting thing to watch, I'll admit, but it works, and in a deathless run, that is all that matters. After dealing with one chief, this fight does get a lot easier. I've also managed to pick off a lot of the little guys, so everything has calmed down a bit, and I can cook this werewolf. I hope he's tasty. A second Remembrance boss is now inbound. I skirt past some large, smooth balls, and then run past fake Moongrum to get to Bales Arena. Upon taking a peek into the boss room, I see a Skeledragon, so I fuck right off to Round Table Hold for Sacred Blade. This Ash of War gives a very juicy damage boost against undead enemies. Let's see how much. Oh yeah, that's gonna be just fine. Most dragon fights suck ass pretty bad, but these dead dragons are pretty fun. They have aggressive melee attacks that also close distance, and it kind of keeps the fight engaging. Most dragons tend to fly away and require chasing, but these guys got fat sacks and they just charge in. Granted, when I'm slamming out this much damage, that's probably a super faulty strategy, but I respect the tenacity. This happens to be the dragon that summons a ton of skeletons, but he waited too long to call for backup, and I take him out before the fight becomes a total clusterfuck. Renala is normally a two-phase boss fight, and for fights like this, you have to take on two bosses. And this randomizer seed is blessed because I find a boat captain, another enemy that is super weak to holy damage. It's awesome for me, but a true bummer for this guy. I was very worried my weapon was underleveled for Rhea Lucaria, and Lady Luck said, "Nah, worry not, my love. I shall force you into holy damage to abuse ghosts and undead." It's super fortunate for me, and I will definitely take it. The Pureblood's Night Metal is a great find here as well because that gives me easy access to Moog and the DLC, which means I already have the majority of the bosses I need unlocked. Moving forward, I managed to buy both halves of the Dectus medallion, so I get to use the lift instead of going through the precipice. I'm mostly going to Altus to unlock Radon, but there are two merchant checks here. The first merchant has the Smithing Stone Bellbearing 2, so I can finally level up the Cleaver, which is spicy. The second merchant has Sacred Tears and Oh Mother. This is one of the two items I need to unlock Batyr, so that's also great. Not too shabby, Altus. I was only missing 3 and 4s of Smithing Stones, so Big Dog Hugh can now max out my Cleaver. It would have been cool to find another weapon by now, but it's still the early game, and I have plenty of time to acquire and upgrade another pointy stabby. Remember when I found Godric's Great Rune and then cleared Godric's Arena earlier? Yeah, me neither. Chat reminded me though, so I head to the Limgrave Tower and activate the Goon Rune, then pop a random rune arc I found for a +5 boost to all my stats. Time to see who Radon is. But first, build check. Really, nothing has changed. I just put on slightly better armor, and I did find Moog's tier, which could be useless, or clutch, and I have 11 + 9 flasks, which is insane. My stats are also pretty absurd, with the highlight being 45 Vig already. Let's see who replaced Radon. A Cemetery Shade. Damn. This should be pretty easy, but these guys can do crazy damage. Never mind, I tried to make this seem spooky, but that's just way too much damage. My dude is cooked, and I would have to have the Throw of the Century for this to go wrong. I am gifted with the Halig Tree Medallion for this hard-won victory, which means I'm halfway to Melania. I'm just getting all the good shit. Fortune favors the bold, so I haul ass into the fresh Radon hole. This run can be absolute cheeks with all the ledges. If a large enemy spawns, it can be pretty tough to kill them without getting knocked off. But I continue to be blessed, and it's a pretty quiet run to my next arena, the home of the Mimic tier. Who is replacing fake me, you ask? Yeah, Gillica's sister. With this scaling, she does a lot of damage, but so do I. And I happen to be smarter. Barely, but I do know how to dodge, and she doesn't, and that's a real difference maker here. When two idiots collide, the slightly smarter one wins. That just happens to be me in this case. Using my vast intellect, I now begin lighting fires to unlock my next remembrance, Bambi. I touch Bambi's dead mother and am teleported to my next victim. The build is still the same, so I head on in and am greeted by my least favorite thing, a large bear. These Winnie the Pooh ass enemies have a big AoE attack, and I barely fought this one. Seems like a great recipe for success. While the AoE is annoying, this is mostly just a regular Rune Bear moveset. It hits hard, but in general, it's easy to avoid if my ADHD doesn't distract me. My damage is also still exceptional, but expect a bit more out of a max weapon in an arena scaled as low as this one, but I'm sure I'll find something better, and this will definitely do for now. If only I had bear spray, this whole thing would be a lot easier though. Oh, right in the butthole. With 4 remembrances down, I'm feeling good. So let's go hit the capital. Guarding the city is Commander Gaius, which seems oddly appropriate. A quick stat check reveals almost 50 vig and some hefty strength. Not too bad for where we're at in the game. Anyways, let's deal with the Hog Rider. As a DLC boss, the Pig Connoisseur has a lot of health, which is fine by me. We've been having pretty good luck with bosses so far, so a bit of a challenge is welcome to avoid all the YouTube comments that'll be like, Mr. Rat, the run was too easy. You just got lucky. Yeah, I saw you bastards typing. Shut the fuck up. Back to the fight. I'm actually cooking. Gaius is perhaps my most practiced baddie from the Shadow of the Erd Tree, and with him doing a little less damage, I'm actually looking like I know how to play Elden Ring for once. It's a rare sight, but it's happening. Nice. That's gonna be close. Oh, that's it. No? There we go. After that, I begin my quick trek through Landell. I've practiced this capital run quite a bit, just because there is a way to avoid most of the enemies, and safety during the running sections is crucial to these runs. I would say in my 3 weeks of running this challenge, I lost 90% of my runs to random enemies and gravity while traveling, and maybe 10% to bosses. In particular, this branch has screwed me several times, but the seed keeps on giving, and there's not rune bears or lobsters here for once. I make it to gold free, and holy shit, after Gaius, that damage looks crazy. I blast Trisha before she can perfume me, then it's just the landing clone left. My weapon staggers him with every hit though, so he has pretty much no option but to take it as I deal it, and the final stagger pretty much ends this war crime. I hustle on up to Morgut, which is an arena I can peek into, and I see something that could be great or awful, a dancing lion. The regular dancing lion is pretty fine to fight, but the Deathblight dancing lion that summons a bunch of frogs is super problematic, and has ended several runs because Deathblight is absolute cheese. The fight is starting off pretty well. I'm doing good against the cat's wily moveset, and initially, I'm not seeing any Deathblight shit. This gives me confidence, and then I hit a fat posture break, and I'm feeling Gucci. It's the regular one. It's not the regular one. All right, we just gotta be fast. Just gotta be fast. Never mind, I'm feeling bad. The Deathblight is annoying on its own, but the fact that he summons 5 to 6 frogs that also spit death is what makes this really challenging. If I stay still for a second or try to hit the boss before dealing with most of the frogs, I'm absolutely cooked. I do have a few rejuvenating boluses, so I can reset the Deathblight at least a couple of times, which makes this a little less terrifying. It took a minute to deal with all the frogs, but I finally do it and get to return to beating the lion. It's slower going because I'm being more careful now, and I think losing my aggression was a bit of a mistake because I start taking hits I shouldn't, and before I know it, I'm out of heals. A nerd would quit out or use a memory of grace, but I banned those in this run because it feels like a cheap way out. So it's time to clutch and get revenge, or fail and start over. Thank God that is out of the way. I hate that boss. I already have the rolled medallion, so it's time to undertake a super long run to the land of the Ginger Giant. I do stop on the way to check the Mountaintops Merchant. My humble guy is carrying both the Smithing Stone Bellbearing 3s, which is sick for when I finally find a weapon to swap to. Before Fire Giant, I do stop in at Round Table to grab some better armor. In this case, Crucible Knight armor. And the Crimson Seed Talisman for even more healing, which should help with my long Vig bar. Time to see who the Fire Giant is. Knight's Cavalry. Nice. These are one of the most repeated bosses in the game, so generally it's impossible to have a run without fighting at least one, and I've gotten pretty legit at handling these dudes. They are a bit annoying with how much they run around, and when they are scaled up like in this arena, their damage can be a bit ridiculous, as you can see here. I mean, just don't get hit though, and that shouldn't be a problem. I knock him off his horse finally, and now we get to see what replaced Phase 2 Fire Giant. Ooh, another kitty. How adorable. This guy has so little health, no scaling can truly save him. I am devastating him with each blow, and I almost feel bad. Almost. Easy wins get me bricked though, and I will take this after the insane amount of stress the last cat caused me. I now talk to my wife, and she convinces me to burn the holy tree, which seems very criminal, but I do whatever she asks. This teleports me to a floating castle, which seems structurally unsafe. I choose to ignore that and hop over all the broken bits of floor to arrive at the foreskin duo. My build is the same, but I have finally reached 60 Vig, which is essentially the cap for this run. Time to see who replaced the worst boss in the game. Wow. An NPC, which is actually somehow worse. Holy shit. The Dancer of Rana is a particularly irritating specimen, even amongst NPCs. She dodges and hits very quickly, which isn't bad when she's scaled down. Her fire, however, is blasting me. Without this attack, I could stand and trade and probably be fine, but shockingly, an attack that does half my health in one go makes me a bit nervous. So I tactically pull out the hit and run strat. This is my tried and tested method of dealing with NPCs. I run away and occasionally dip on in to get off a single hit before fleeing again. Does it suck to do? Yes, but does it work? Also yes. Naturally, I get bored of this due to my ADHD and just decide to full send wild strikes. Walk 'em down.
Fuck 'em up.
Good timing right there, brother.
Fuck 'em up, brother.
Fuck 'em up, brother. I do get another smithing stone bell bearing for when I finally find another weapon, which certainly has to happen soon. Now things chill out for a second. I get a pretty quiet run through the rest of Farum, right up until I'm almost at the elevator to Malekith. Here I find a crab stuck in a wall. Kinda weird, so I put the poor guy out of his misery. After grabbing the grace, I head to my next logical boss, Placidus Axe. I wander into the land beyond time and find one of my greatest enemies, a Crucible Knight. I have been carrying the small shield this entire run, just in case this exact thing happened. That's how much I despise these cretins. Fighting them normally definitely sucks, but with a good parry, it's just a really long fight. Which is unfortunate, because Bushy decided to choose this moment to sit over my shoulder and call me a pussy for parrying and not just straight up fighting this guy. Chat even joined in, so I was catching flack on all sides. It's kinda ridiculous, because like, look at the damage. This is pitiful, but I am nothing if not a patient rat, so I chip away slowly and mercilessly at this roided up knight. It may be a lame strat according to everyone watching, but fuck them. It works. Sweet. We are actually making progress. Now for Malekith. I have added Erdtree's favor to the build in place of the Warrior Jar Shard, and I have 12 plus 9 flasks, which is a little absurd. My stats haven't changed much besides a bit more strength. I'd still like a better weapon, but I'm liking everything else I got going on here. Time to see who Malekith is now. Ah, let's bust out the Dragon Canusi strat. By hiding in the crevice behind this man's right knee, I am shielded from his attacks and get free hits while he spins in circles trying to figure out how the hell he's gonna deal with a big brain stratagem like this one. After abusing his knee like a Skyrim NPC, I head into phase 2. Rykard. Sick. The randomizer gives you Serpent Hunter whenever you find a Rykard phase, so I'm not absolutely screwed. And I have a shield, so I can use the block and poke strategy to hit him real quick. But this is a level 1 Serpent Hunter, so the actual damage inflicted per hit is a little embarrassing. Luckily, Rykard is another boss I'm well practiced on, so I just keep cooking my spam hits until he falls. GG's, Orochimaru. The game progresses as normal here, and I'm sent to the nuked capital after finishing Malekith's arena. I give my strength a little more juice and wander the Fallout zone till I arrive at Gideon's home, where I find another Dragonkin. God, this is so free, dude. This seed has been a little ass, but it's also been giving. The seed giveth, and the seed taketh. Amen. Let's head straight up to Morgoth's old home and see who Godfrey is. Tree avatar, tasty. This is a 2-phase fight, so seeing something easy to start is a delight. I head in, hoping I can do this first phase hitless. I have no excuse for getting smacked by this slow man's, so I hit and snake my way around his attacks until I get the inevitable stagger. Yeah, I mean, it couldn't be easier if I bribed the Lord for it. I keep going with the same recipe until this man's decides to reveal he's Naruto and hits the Shadow Clone move. That's not great, but I get the stagger for a shitload of damage before the clusterfuck begins. Then some weird shit happens. I'm planning on saving Elden Beast for last, so let's go clean up the other remembrances we have access to in the base game. First up is Estelle, and the easiest way to get to that area is to get into the coffin at the Valiant Guards Arena. So I head that way and find the beloved Finger Mommy, and this is looking easy. I am significantly overleveled for this area, so even an in-game boss doesn't really pose much of a threat. I finish off this nasty being, then hop into a coffin that then starts flying. Magic is weird. I run through Deeproot Depths to yet another coffin, which I ride off a waterfall this time. Now there's a super long run to the Lake of Rot, which we will skip, and a pretty long run through the Lake of Rot, which we will also skip. At the end of the lake, there is yet another coffin that I hop into that finally takes me to Estelle. The build is the same, the only change is I have over 40 strength now, so my damage is getting better. Let's see who replaced Cosmic Anal Beads. Sick. An NPC fight that isn't total ass. I decide to try Wild Strikes and see if I can just trade this fight. Okay, he just poises through my attacks. Wow, sick. Very cool. Still, I destroyed his health bar in that exchange, so a couple more hits and bang. That's my 10th remembrance down. Alright, I am now almost out of things to do in the base game. In order to avoid the DLC a little longer, I run through Mount Gelmir for 2 more key item checks. First is this merchant who blue balls me with no good items. The next check is Tanith, who at least gives me a sacred tier, which is pretty tight. I guess there's no more putting it off. Let's head to the DLC. I pop the Pureblood Knight's medal and am teleported straight into hell. The run to Moog is kind of funny. There's about 1 million enemies in the way, but fortunately for me, most of them are passive. This happens when the enemies in an area are normally passive, so even though this run looks like it would be the worst in the game, it's actually really easy. There is a merchant check here, but he has nothing worth giving a shit about, so I head to Moog. Who is it? Another demi-human queen. Hell yeah. Margot is a little jumpier and more aggressive than her sister, and with Mogwin scaling, she's not quite as squishy as she would normally be. And she's kind of dishing out a lot of damage. But hesitation is death, and I stick to my tried and true method of hiding in her legs and not really trying to dodge. This may seem like an awful idea, but she actually misses most of her attacks when I do this, so fuck it, I ball. With her dead, I have DLC access. So I take all my runes back to Round Table and use the Giga Merchant collection to buy every single Skabooble fragment I can find as preparation. I also buy the Revered Spirit Ashes since they buff Torrent, and getting knocked off my horse is a really easy way to die. With that done, I hold Miquella's dead hand and arrive in the shadow of the Erd Tree. I immediately use my Scud frags to power up to a level 15 Shadow Blessing and level 6 Ash thingy. So now I don't have to stress about being one-shot by literally anything. There are a few easy key item checks in the DLC, so I'm gonna do those before we get frisky and beat bosses. The first check is Moore, who has some more skibbity doodaws, which ain't bad. Then I take a long ass route to Bonnie Village to look under a tree, where I find another useless golden seed. And finally, I check the church to get yet another Skadot fragment. Alright, I'm a little better off, but that was not truly profitable. Time for the first DLC boss, Rolana. Running through Castle Enos sucks though, so I decided to learn a skip. I run around the castle from the backside along this cliff before ascending one of the scariest jumps in the run. I know that looked easy, but I was clinching hard enough to make diamonds while that happened. That gets me pretty much directly to the boss room. So I bust on in and find the Torchy Tree Sentinel. Time to see how my damage looks. Oh, he's absolutely cooked. I forgot how OP Spadoodle fragments make you, and I was honestly pretty scared heading in here. The entire DLC is scaled way above the base game, and I really don't know how that translates with most bosses. There was a chance I was doing no damage and this man's was blasting, but instead it looks pretty equal. I have 60 Vig, heavy armor, and even some boiled crab I bought at the Twin Maiden Husks, and this dude is still kinda knocking my skull around. I don't let horse girls beat me around that much though, so I lock in and clear up the first boss in our DLC stint. He gave me more scoop fragments, and with the other ones I found, I'm at level 17 for my blessing, which is honestly stupid. Let's continue our journey by heading into Bellarat. You're supposed to come here at like 5 Scooby-Doo levels, and I'm clearly way over that, so I kinda just sent it and tried to run past all the enemies. This is a really dumb thing to do, and it happened to work out, but as I'm writing this, I can't believe what a dumb move it was 5 hours into the run. There could have been fucking anything here, and I just did not care. It did work out though, seeing as I made it to the lion cage, so whatever. I open the doors and see a sweet scaly little lizard baby. Too bad it's one of my key bosses. Time to die, dum-dum. I am once again absolutely spooked by how well the Cleaver is doing. I was planning on replacing this ASAP when the run started, but honestly, I'm halfway through and this thing is still shitting. I mean, it gets staggers like crazy, and just look at Wild Strike's work. Alright, we finish him right here. Wild Strikes, my beloved. Do your duty. Very good. I do run past the lion place for some easy item checks and actually find the Dragon Hunter's great katana. I head to Hugh and upgrade it, and had I found this earlier, I would have made it my main weapon, but the Cleaver has impressed me, so I'm mostly upgrading this just in case I find more dragon bosses for its bonus damage. I think the Putrescent Knight is one of the lowest skilled bosses left on the board, so I roam to the Dragon's Pit to get access to the Cerulean Coast. Here, I have to jump off a ledge that I know won't kill me, but it makes me nervous despite that. I finally have enough stamina to get rid of the Erd Tree's favorite talisman, and I swapped in the Shard of Alexander so Wild Strikes can fuck harder. I'm excited to test it. Well, that's a cemetery shade. I guess we aren't testing the new tally. I run around a bit because I'm scared of all the skeletons. Then I accidentally hit the shade. Alright, this is GG's. I don't know why I was scared. This dude has no health. All my stats are pretty much at the soft caps or where I need them to be, so I do start upgrading dex a little for more damage, but at this point levels are so expensive and irrelevant, I probably won't be talking about them much. Having done that, I now take a long skirt down to the Cerulean coast and then to the giant hole where Putrescent hides. I don't love the run through this hole. There's a lot of ledges and enemies, so I do take some time to commit some light murdering just to make sure I'm not running from too many enemies on my way to the next ledge jump. I get a little nervous again, thinking maybe the death jump will glitch out or something, but it doesn't, and I am greeted by the wholesome ginger giant, specifically phase 1. Now I can test out wild strikes. I love it. This is my new favorite thing. A big slow boss like this is pretty ideal since he will stand and accept my hits like a man, which is an awful idea because I end up having his health with just one attempt of wild strikes. He does eventually realize a tactical retreat may help, but it's definitely a bit late. Fat bastard here has already let me get way ahead in the health race, and I don't know if he can recover. There is a chance at this scaling that his shield slams could one-shot or at least do a lot of damage. So I decide to simply not have a skill issue and not let him hit me. Like honestly, why are we letting bosses hit us? I just have to press circle, then R2, and like, there's no way to lose. Maybe I was just overcomplicating all the previous fights, because this one's going really well. The ginger drops a holy necklace, which is actually super tight because that will now let me access Batyr, which was one of the few bosses that I still couldn't get to before this. There's 3 major bosses that I can access via Shadowkeep, so I guess I'm off to do that. I enter the church district since that's how I unlock the Skibbity avatar, and the idea of falling in the water scares me a little bit, but I just don't do that and manage to drain Mesmer's bathwater before it can hurt me. And by that, I mean before I got too much of a desire to drink it. Having cleared the delicious water, I skip through the church to the door of the big tree boss, where I see the Skeledir. I know he's weak to fire, but I only have grease, so I pop that and get this started. Even with fire, he has quite a bit of health. Those are fat chunks, but I thought it would be better. Wild strikes still exist though, and honestly this looks quite a bit better. It's looking good. This was a quick fight, and he's almost dead. Oh yeah, he heals. Great. So I do that all again and finally get a posture break. I thought that might kill him, but I'll take that much damage. The follow-ups also looking spiffy. Let's get some venison, brothers. I think I want Gaius next, so I begin my second trek through Shadowkeep. Most of the run is chill, besides being up on these rafters. This scares me even when there isn't a dangerous enemy to be seen. Gravity is literally my greatest enemy. Fortunately, I do not succumb to it today, and we make it to the elevator to Gaius, who is Consort Radon. Fuck me right in the ass, dude. Well, I'm not gonna pussy out and run away, so I go to Hugh, set up a Frost and Bleed Cleaver, and head in to face my fate. I start off planning to parry Mikola's Simp. This was a bad call. This is post-nerf Radon, so he's a little easier, but all his timings have changed, which means I'm parrying and dodging way too early due to my muscle memory from fighting the real version. So I get rid of the shield and decide to learn the new timings on the fly. They should be easier, I just have to pay a little more attention than usual. Unfortunately, I do get hugged, and then, well... No, I literally shit myself right there. That is not what you want to see your health bar doing in a deathless run. That does grab my attention and spike my adrenaline at least, so I'm looking a little better as the fight continues. I start getting hits in, but his timing just being slightly different keeps fucking me. I just keep getting hit by attacks that were never an issue, and it's getting increasingly frustrating. It's also quickly depleting my health, which is not good. By the time I've gotten him to half health, I've used 8 out of my 12 flasks, and it would take an idiot to not realize that this is an awful trend. I'm starting to be in real trouble, so I decide to get even more aggressive. I still know all these moves, I just have to put a little hezzy on every dodge and stay right on him. It's literally my only option. And the next part of this fight gets a bit better. I'm whittling him down and taking less damage, although it's still nowhere close to perfect. He finally decides to retreat and become a meteor, while I only have 1 flask left. I'm gonna need to not suck here. Oh. Oh my god. I thought I was fucked after the start of that fight. Okay. It's time for a bit of a break after that one. That was just a bit too close. So let's go do the Hornsent quest and get him out of the NPC fight that'll happen later. So I talked to Hornsent, then talked to Leda, and she's like, damn, guess we gotta kill him. Sounds good to me. He fucking sucks. I go find the summoning sign in Shadowkeep, and me and Leda proceed to gangbang Hornsent. It's not even close to fair, and that's fine by me. Now that that problem for future me has been somewhat dealt with, I'm going to kill Mesmer. This is one of the highest scaled two-phase fights, so it's gonna suck. I make one more trip through the Shadowkeep that requires a bit of parkour, but isn't too bad, and arrive at Mesmer's door. I did add the Haligdrake medallion to replace the Shard of Alexander since I wasn't using it much, and more defense is more gooder. Let's see if Mesmer's gonna ruin me. Oh, please let me back up. Please let me back up. Fuck. Oh, joy. A Deathrite bird. And no holy damage. I'm sure this will be fun. On second thought, it's not looking too bad. I thought he would take no damage, but I have once again underestimated my beloved Cleaver. This might be a new top 5 weapon for me. It seems to do great damage to pretty much every type of enemy, and it staggers everything. I can't believe I actually wanted to swap out from this at the start. I do get hit by one attack here, and I honestly thought it killed me for a second. Like, that was an insane drop. No me gusta. I play a little more cautious, and now I get to phase 2. Ah, Bale. In a small arena with the no noise glitch. This'll suck. I do at least have the Dragon Katana ready to go, which makes this slightly better. The Ash of War on this thing is nasty for Bale. It almost never misses, and it hits harder than literally anything else I could probably use right now. It seems like it was a clutch move to do that little item check after the Lion Dragon fight. I didn't realize how much I use sound cues in this fight, but the deafness glitch is really screwing with me. I like to hide under his head, and I guess I normally dodge based on sounds, because I'm getting smacked around a lot more than I usually do. It's turning this fight into a bit of a DPS race, but I managed to stay ahead by just enough that it doesn't matter. 1, 2, poke the leg, poke the leg! Bro, thank God we found Dragon Hunter Katana. That would have been ass. Sweet, I've finished the Shadowkeep. So now we take one last trip through this cursed area to arrive at the ancient ruins. It took me a couple months, but I do finally know how to run through this area without getting lost. I do, however, find a rune bear. Run, Torrent! Torrent! Oh, you son of a bitch. GG's. Holy shit. Bitch. Brother, can I please go with 30 minutes without one of these incidents? After changing my pants once again, I finish the run to Romanus Church and head in to find mystery boss number 18. It's a Moog. Not sure which Moog yet, but I have the Purifying Tear in my physic already, so that's not too important. For the first time in a bit, my damage looks a little small. I don't love that if this is regular Moog, but it'll be fine if it's my sewer rat brother. I normally fight both Moogs in my playthroughs, so this phase is incredibly easy for me. The fact that he's juiced up a bit makes it take a while, but my practice is really paying off here. I get him down to about half health without seeing any phase transition, and at this point, I think it's safe to say this is the sewer Moog. I'm kind of bummed because it would be funny if carrying the Purifying Tear around this whole time finally paid off, but I'm glad I don't have to deal with phase 2 Moog. This fight did take a really long time compared to the rest, but I was never in any real danger, which was a nice break after how nervous I've been throughout the DLC. I commit my second case of Divine Arson by myself due to tragically losing my wife earlier, and am again teleported to a castle for my sins. Inner Elum is normally one of the worst running sections in the entire game, because it is filled with awful enemies. All those enemies have thankfully been sent elsewhere for this run, so I actually have one of the easiest runs through here that I've ever had. Unfortunately, the NPC fight still has to happen, and it will be 2 random NPCs instead of 3 thanks to my earlier work, but this is gonna suck. Since this isn't a boss fight, I feel fine summoning my boy Nathan for this fight. Some of you will bitch about me using summons, and if that is you, literally suckle my entire sack, brother. The fight begins with my nemesis, Moongrum. Awesome. I'm doing decent to start though, but I forgot Moongrum can parry. Holy fuck, dude, that is terrifying. I become much more cautious and return to the NPC hit and run strat until Albrich and Nathan show up. Now this is a real rumble. Nathan does some distracting, which allows me to finish off Moongrum. Then we decide to tag team Scythe Boy. I don't use summons because they really do make things too easy, as you can see here. But this fight is cheeks, and I'm gonna take the advantage. Let's blast Wild Strikes. There we go. Shout out Nathan, dude. What a Chad. And now we have the actual worst two-phase fight in terms of scaling at Consort Radon. The only arena scaled higher is Bale, but that's a one-phase fight, so this is theoretically the hardest boss fight in the run. And we get... ooh, a Ghost Dragon. Very cutesy. Very demure. I really should have a Sacred Blade weapon set up, but I'm lazy, and I haven't done that. So we're just gonna raw dog it. I think the effects of scaling are very apparent here. As you can see, I'm doing pretty outlandish damage at over 1,000 damage per hit, and this bar is not moving much. I should really be trying to hit the head here, as that is the optimal strategy when fighting these undead Skyrim-ass dragons, but I have a second boss after this, so I'm playing it safe and sticking to the cankles. It's not the fastest way to get this done, but without a holy weapon, I want to be safe, and playing safe works pretty well, although I do end up using almost half my flasks before getting to phase 2. Motherfucker, I'm putting Sacred Blade on something after this. This is ridiculous. It's Deathbird season, I guess. In this run, I've kind of learned that charged attacks seem to be the way to go on these guys, and I get a stagger pretty early for that juicy riposta damage. The Deathbird gets me back though. I take a fat hit from the nuke, and subsequently remember that I am not in fact invincible. God, I hate this stupid moveset, dude. I keep on chugging though and get my second stagger late in the battle. Yeah, the drawing room key is how I plan on getting to Rykard, so that's a wonderful find. Only 3 bosses left in the DLC. Bales Arena should be the hardest left, so I climb the Lightning Mountain to see what it has in store. Of course, why not? At least I can see the Deathbird this time, so I can put Sacred Blade on my Cleaver. Let's see what it looks like. Well, damn, this just proves that Sacred Blade is OP on Deathbirds. This is literally the most powerful one of these things could be, and I'm dick slapping him with my Holy Sword. Thank God I could actually see him this time. It's so much easier fighting him this way. Alrighty, fun fact here. Over the course of all my attempts, 20 bosses is actually my personal best. So I am now incredibly nervous, just anticipating the bullshit death that feels inevitable. With only 2 more bosses left in the DLC, it's either run to Midra or blow the Batyr horns. And the horns actually sound a bit quicker to me. So I return to the Cerulean Coast one last time to blow this long phallic object. Then I run through the hinterlands and the screaming starts. The aged untouchables are randomized, but I am luckily on Torrent and I outrun the invincible enemy. Thank God that was here so I could actually ride Torrent. I find my next horn and blow it to unlock my Batyr access. Before doing Batyr, I decided to finally set up a utility weapon. Mainly, I take the Rotten Hammer and add Sacred Blade to it in the event that I find more Deathbirds. Now I feel comfortable sniffing the chair to unlock Batyr. First, an NPC shows up to try and stop me, but a little L2 gaming just ruins his hopes and dreams. Okay, now I can blow my final horn and see who Batyr is. The Scooby-Doodle avatar. This should be fine. I'd prefer to have a fire weapon here, but I hadn't considered doing that. It doesn't really seem like it would make a difference though. I'm already doing great work in phase 1. Granted, this is the easiest phase with the lowest health, but still. I end up getting the ending riposte to spawn him in with less health. Then I remember I have fire grease, so I pop that on for a bit of an advantage in phase 2. It doesn't help a ton, but it do make my Cleaver look even cooler, so I'm down for that. It's probably because he's standing on water, which grants a little extra fire resistance, but still, I take a bit of extra damage when I can get it. One more riposte, and now it's phase 3, aka the Holy Nuke phase. You would think that would be dangerous, but I'm an Elden Ring professional, so I just attempt to dodge it, then take it like a man. Excellent execution. Besides that though, we've seen the first 2 phases. We know what's gonna happen. I do my thing, and before I know it, it's GG's to the skibbity tree. Oh, Curse Mark of Death is sweet. I can now get to Fortisax, which means every boss besides Melania is now accessible. And finally, one major boss left in the DLC. Unfortunately, it's Midra, so I have a long walk to get there. I run to the catacomb, then through the catacomb. I have become very proficient at avoiding things, and this catacomb is pretty spacious. So I get to Jory without taking too much damage. Jory is replaced by a bell-bearing hunter, which is good and bad. Bad because he's gonna have a shitload of health. Good because there is cheese to be had here. Bell-bearing hunters are kind of stupid, and as you can see, they will repeat the same shield slam move if you stand behind them. So I run behind him, hit, then dodge, then run behind him, and on it goes. This is pretty easy to pull off, and I'm glad I learned it, because this fight is now free as can be. I was going to talk about the run through the forest and the manse, but literally nothing happened, so we're gonna jump straight to Midra. There's a nerd here, so I give him a noogie, and... It's phase 1 Renala. I'm blessed, dude. Let's beat up some kids, and then it's time for wild strikes. I'm just sending, I believe. Oh, thank God. That's so lucky. I will take that all day, though. The DLC is done. I am so close, brothers. Since I have the Curse Mark of Death, I head to Fortisax. Fia's simps are our boss, so we have to clear out her new simp Garank to get to the Remembrance fight, which is not an issue. I have to fight this man literally every run, and this is the easier phase. I pretty much just bait out the ground stab and smack him. These are dodges I could do in my sleep. Along with the scaling, this really is an easy cookage for me. Now I get to hug Fia, and it's time for Fortisax. Or Lich Dragon Elden Beast. Honestly, I kinda hate this. Elden Beast seems to scale weird for me in the randomizer. Oh, never mind. This is fine. Mr. Space Slug has chosen to not suck, and I am down for it. So I get to smacking, and before I know it, he's almost dead, and I get a stagger. Nice work. It kinda sucks to be so overleveled and come back to areas like this where I just smash the boss, but this is a deathless run, so I guess I shouldn't be too upset. 3 more left. I'm sweating a bit. I guess it's time for Rykard since I have the drawing room key. So I run over some rooftops, then across some lava and up a cage to the former Fat Skin Noble, who's been replaced by a Falling Star Beast. I don't really fight these guys much, so I say fuck finesse and just jump straight into a DPS race. I mean, I make a small effort to dodge, but I feel much more confident just hauling ass in and smacking him till I feel like I need to heal. Is it an elegant solution? No. Is it clearly working? Yes. I was ready to do the next running section, but I see a giant hand and decide to do the smart thing and use a bow and arrow to avoid any bad incidents. The rest of the run past this is pretty quiet, and I make it to the teleporter without too much more anxiety. Who is first phase Rykard? Valiant Gargoyles. Retro Reggie. If you don't know, this is one of the worst bosses in all of Elden Ring. 2 giant gargoyles that do hella damage and spit poison on the floor. Just like exceptionally fun game design, dude. The only redeeming factor is that they are normally in an area that is scaled incredibly low, but that is not the case here. I am like level 140 or something though, so I mean, I guess both me and the enemies are over leveled. A fair battle, some would say. Well, not really. These 2 are not great at taking turns right now, and although I do eventually get the first one down, I've used quite a few heals. This makes me nervous, and I get comboed a bit as I begin my battle with Garg number 2. Not ideal. Not ideal at all. I've now used over half my flasks, and I realize I need to start putting in work. For all I know, I'm getting Malenia next, and I'm gonna need these heals. So I lock in and remember how to press circle when I need to. With my fat damage, that makes this fight look like less of a mess, and taking on one of these guys isn't too horrendous. I managed to ice up, and now it's phase 2. Ah, dragon. A dragon that I am hitting hard. Excellent. I'm doing work here. Each hit is looking like giant crusher damage, and I'm starting to feel like I lucked out. The only thing that could fuck this up is him flying out of bounds. Well, he did that. Luckily, he immediately despawned and respawned, which doesn't usually happen. I'm down with it, though. All right, this is it. Bang. Bang. 2 left. I'm almost free. God, please. The only boss I can fight right now is Elden Beast, which leaves Malenia for last. I kind of don't love that, but oh well. I enter the tree, and it's a Bloodhound Knight. Alrighty, why not? The scaling at this point is pretty in my favor. I can definitely still die. I can't just go in and trade, but with a bit of caution, I should be fine. So I work slowly and methodically, eating up that health bar like a fat man at McDonald's until I hit the stagger. And now... Ah, my original greatest enemy. I almost can't believe this man's killed me over 50 times in my first playthrough. Crazy how things change. I don't think I'm great at fighting any boss, but I've spent enough intimate time with this horse girl that I almost know what's going on during this fight. All that to say, I'm confident I'm getting out of here with a win. Bang, brother. Bang. Only one to go. And it just happens to be the one with the scariest running section. I also don't have the Hallitree medallion, which is a significant issue. So I start the item search. Key items like the Hallitree medallion can only be in certain areas. So I check Fort Height first. Nope. Fort Feroth. Nope. How about the Shifa merchant? God damn it. Well, I'm in Shifra. I can also check the baby deer, who happens to be Morgott. Surely this boss has the medallion. I shit on him, and I'm filled with disappointment once again. This is getting ridiculous. There's still plenty of checks though. Celia, perhaps? More sadness. Surely it's in Stormvale. It was early and I missed it. All right, Rhea rooftops check. Motherfucker, dude. Brother, where is this medallion? Well, I can murder the Leonin worm. That chonky damage made me feel a little bit better. That is, until he gives me a golden seed. Einsel has a merchant and a boss check. Let's do that. On the way down, I do find Placidusax's Remembrance, which turns out to have iron balls. Damn, I should have come down here sooner. That's awesome. Anyways, back on track. The merchant check is useless, and the Dragonkin Tree Sentinel that I find at the end of this area also screws me. I'm getting tired, boss. All right, I only know of like 3 more key item checks. I skirt over to the Shaded Castle to fight another Tree Sentinel, and I bet you guessed it, but no fucking medallion. The last check I can think of is the Precipice. So I run through yet another entire area to fight a boss, an ancient hero of Zamor. This poor dude is not equipped to handle my in-game build, so I cleave him and... Brother, please. I'm almost out of ideas. The only checks left are actually Commander Nile, Sewer Moog, and the Golden Hippo. Shit, I guess the Hippo is the easiest to get to. The other 2 sound awful. I return to the DLC for one last time and enter the Shadow Keep through the front. Feels weird. And I see another Knight's Cav. I am just finding all the horse riding enemies. And I thought this would be easy, but my guy lets me know off rip. He will fuck me up. That flail is OP, dude. With a little bit of fear now fueling me, I begin the process of destroying his horse. I feel like it's easiest to just focus on getting the horse down, and once they fall off, absolutely abuse them. I do eventually assassinate the horse, and yes, I feel bad about it. Time to see if I have any more running. There we go. I knew it was the hippo. I knew it was the fucking hippo. There it is. Time for the final approach, baby. The run through consecrated snowfields and doing Ordina are a pretty nice break, all things considered. But once I get through the portal to the Hallig tree, I become way too stressed. This stupid fucking tree branch is awful. It's way too skinny to fight on, so I'm just hoping nothing is in my way. And the start is actually going all right. There is a Bloodhound Knight at the bottom, which does make me piss my pants a bit, but I'm a nimble rat and I duck him easy. Loretta time. I have my balls maxed out with bleed, and inside this arena, I see the Kindred of Rot duo. These 2 are super squishy, but the pest threads could actually probably still kill me. So let's go quick. 1 hit, 2 hit, and that's a stagger, my guy. Like I said, super squishy. I chase down the injured one to clean him up, and now this is pretty chill. I can handle 1. I was just mostly worried about getting hit by surprise well, there were 2 of them. There we go. All right. I think you could hear the nerves there a bit. The rest of the Hallig Tree run is pretty chill up until the Rot Pond. This absurd little section ended 2 of my best runs, so I fully pussy out and use the bow. I just want to take out all the fast or high damage enemies so I can chill out a bit about this area. I embrace full bitch mode and do that. Then I equip a dagger and zoom right on through this now empty pond of fuckery. I've also fallen off this branch, and once I get across it, I thought I'd feel a bit better. I don't. The run to Melania is eerily quiet, and my nerves are just way too high. This is it. I don't feel good, but let's get it done. Deathbird. Of course it is. Even with Sacred Blade and that damage, my nerves don't go away. I'm still scared. I just need this to be done. Yes! 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 Holy shit! Oh, 3 fucking weeks. 150 hours. Ah! Sweet freedom, baby. That run literally took way too much of my time, energy, and will to live, but it is finally done with the Omen Killer Cleaver of all things. That's my new favorite weapon. Anyways, that's it. Another Deathless Randomizer in the books. If you like that, check out my other videos on screen now. Until next time, be good, be kind, adios.